So for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, PRASHA is a global student-led organization with an unwavering commitment to empowering medical students and professionals. Over the years, we have expanded our reach to more than 10 countries, fostering opportunities for growth and collaborations. From hosting blood donation camps and awareness campaigns to running study groups, we have reached to many countries. A recent collaboration with Cognitive Sprints, MedTalk Zambia, IMC Unity, Supernova, Red Cross Russia, ACTM Council Academy reflects our dedication to creating a world that empowers medical students. We are thrilled to introduce our new chapters in Jordan, UAE, China, as well as India. If you would like to know more about it, you can just follow us on our Instagram or Facebook, any of our social media, and any of our members would be delighted or would be ready to guide you all through. Now, let's move on to the highlight of today's event without taking much of your time. That is Navigating Residency webinar series. This is the third series. We have prior done a series that guides you all through labs and USMLE, for which you all can just go through the recording that is provided on our YouTube channel. Today's session is all about Australian medical pathway, and we are honored to have Dr. Divij Sharma with us. A little about Dr. Divij. He's a graduate from Manipal University with experience in internal medicine and neurology in Australia. Alongside his work, he holds a part-time research role and has successfully cleared the AMC both 1 and 2 exam, as well an MRCP exam, that is the exam in UK. As well as that, beyond his own accomplishment, Dr. Divij has a passion of teaching and mentorship, and you can just know it throughout the session because he's the one conducting it for you, and I'm sure you will learn more after the session that before coming here. So, uh, please feel free to write down your questions during the session. We will have a dedicated question and answer segment that will be towards the end of the session, and Dr. Divij Sharma will answer the queries to you. Without further delay, Dr. Divij, the floor is yours.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Nati, for the introduction. I hope I'm very clearly audible to all of you. I'm
Yes,
audible?
you're completely audible, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. So yes, without further ado, I'll just cut through the chase. I've made two presentations for all of you. One of them described step-by-step pathway to Australia, the most important step being where to start from as a fresh medical student, as an intern, or just as somebody who's exploring, okay, which pathway to take, the UK, Australia, or the America pathway. Um, Thank you for the introduction. I will not waste further time and just start ahead with sharing my screen. Before I share my screen, I want to share a very important pointer with all of you. So, in addition to my mentoring teaching, I get a lot of questions from people who are exploring the Austrian pathway, students, interns, that, okay, Divij, we want to know how much the salary is as a resident medical officer, what the salary is. So, the salary, and this is the most important question, which I think all of you are looking forward to, the salary is about 7,000 to 8,000 Australian dollars a month. $1 is about 55, 56 rupees. I want you guys to do the math and put on the chat box how much that amounts per month, the salary. And I'm talking about the salary after tax, not before tax. This is after you have those 35% deductions, and the taxes are upwards of 30% for our job profile, which is doctor in Australia. And after tax, I get the salary about between 7,000 to 8,000 Australian dollars. Feel free to put in the chat box, do the mental calculation about how much you think you're going to be earning if you make it to Australia. Right. This is my screen. Are you able to see that I'm flipping my screen, Maitri? Maitri, can you see me flip my screen?
Yes, yes, we are able to see you and see your screen, I
Okay.
mean. Sorry.
Screen, right? Yeah. Great. So yeah, the first part of the exam is the AMC MCQ exam, but before that we need to do a few registrations. Going ahead, so there are two bodies actually. Do not be confused with ECFMG as we know about US or UK. This is the EPIC. The website is different, separate from ECFMG. First, as this is as a fourth year medical student or as an intern, you have to log into something what we call as EPIC, Electronic Portfolio of International Credentials. The links will be shared with you. You need to log in here. You need to include your personal details, your medical school details, passport details, etc., 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 and then upload a document, which is your medical school transcript or your degree. You won't get a degree in your during your internship, but you'll have a medical school transcript. Using that, you create an Epic account. From there, you get an Epic ID. You use that Epic ID to sign into AMC Portfolio. This is the second part of the registration before we start the before we dissect to the examinations. The first is signing up into the Epic account. The second is creating an AMC portfolio or an AMC account. You cannot go to the second step, nor can you do it simultaneous with the Epic account because when you log into your AMC, the first thing they're going to ask is to enter your Epic ID. And you can get your Epic ID only once you've signed up to Epic and uploaded your medical school transcript. So be aware of that. These are the first two steps. You start with them and this is the fee part. AMC portfolio is about 642 Australian dollars. The MCQ exam, which is the part one or step one, as we said, is about 3,000 Australian dollars. Beg your pardon, it's Australian dollars. I've also made a slide where I have detailed the entire fee, which is required for the Australian pathway, right from the registration to, let's say, covering the travel and miscellaneous cost for your second part, even a bit of observership cost if you have to do it. And just wait time for that slide. The AMC one structure is very similar to the PLAB one exam, just drawing comparisons for the ease. Because we as medical students or early doctors tend to know more about the PLAB one exam and the AMC one exam. It's just like PLAB one. I think the questions are 150 questions. It's over 3.5 hours. The score has no validation. You just need a pass to just sail through and move to the next step. Score has no validation, even though you get a detailed score report, but it doesn't matter whether you get a 400 or 250 mark. All you need is a pass. The timeline is you can schedule it anytime during your intern year or after that. I personally did my exam in the last month of internship, but you can do it before. However, you can't do something like that this during your fourth year, as you can do with your USMLE. You can sit for your USMLE steps during your third or your final year, but not with AMC one. You've got to wait till your internship year because your Epic account can only be created once you have graduated, not before that. The timeline someone around it could take somewhere around 6 to 8 months. I took longer because of COVID, but 6 to 8 months of rigorous studying. I'm talking about 4 5 hours a day, in addition to your ancillary to your internship job, would be just fine. Briefly talking about the English competency, there are three English exams: IELTS, OET, PT. PT is with the least heard of. These are the acceptance scores required, as mentioned on the slide. My personal recommendation for people who are venturing the Australian pathway, not the UK one, but Australia, PAT is actually the cheapest and the easiest out of all three of them. So you can give a crack at it. But if you're someone who wants to keep the UK or Australian option open, then go for either IELTS, academic, or the OET. Don't go for PT because PT is not recognized by the GMC, General Medical Council, in the UK. The sources and ideal timeline, I've already told about the ideal timeline. Just a pointer to compare with the famous exams here. I'm not completely sure of the FNG pattern, but comparing it to the USMLE and the PLAB pathway, it's more thorough and a little bit different than the PLAB one exam, more focused on recalls, but it's easier than the USMLE, has less depth, shorter clinical stems, and naturally of lesser time. USMLE is of 8 hours, this one's of 3.5 hours. These are the resources listed. If the two question banks, very popular question banks, and I don't think there's any other question bank which you need to subscribe to. These are very famous question banks. There are some resources which are required. You guys can get in touch with me if you need those resources in hand, all up to date. A bit about the AMC clinical exam, which is very feared because it's a notoriously hard exam. The pass rate is very low. I'm talking a pass rate between 18 to 22%. But that being said, it is not something which cannot be mastered with the right resources, with structuring your right timeline the right way. You can master the AMC clinical exam as well. People interns, medical students, doctors, a lot of them I know want to venture on the AMC pathway, but they don't because they fear the AMC clinical examination because of the low pass rate. I want to let you know there's nothing. Statistically, yes, the pass rate is very low. It's about 22%, but a lot of people sail through it. So just by looking at an exam difficulty or some statistics, I don't want you to be discouraged to pursue this pathway or any other pathway for that matter. Talking briefly about the structure, it's an OSCE exam, objective structural clinical examination. Pardon me, because I'm again comparing it to PLAB 2. It's very similar to the PLAB 2 exam. 20 OSCE stations. There are about 10 minutes. 8 minutes is performance time, 2 minutes is reading time. There are five or six of your predominant final year subjects which are asked: medicine, surgery. I'll include a bit of emergency medicine there, pediatrics, psychiatry, obstetrics and gynecology, and the physical examination part, where you need to essentially do a respiratory examination. Let's say you're a mannequin or a live human. It's the exam's not held in January and December. It's mostly from February to November. One shortcoming is that, well, actually two shortcomings. First, it's very expensive. It's about 4,391 Australian dollars. And if you guys have done the math of a monthly salary of an Australian resident as I was, and if you've done the math of converting it into rupees, I want you to do the math of converting this into rupees as well. Because this is one of the limitations of this pathway that the AMC is expensive compared to your PLAB assembly counterparts. And the second part is that it's only held in Melbourne, in Australia. It cannot be given from anywhere in the world, not even at your house. I'm talking about the face-to-face one, not the online component. So these are two things. If you can navigate it, first the cost. Second is this process of traveling and probably traveling alone. If you don't have family or immediate family in Australia, you can navigate them. Go ahead. The scheduling is via same, the AMC portfolio which we've created for part one. As soon as you clear part one, you get the result, you are eligible to apply for part two. The dates are few and far between. You need to be very alert with the dates because the bookings go out in 30 minutes because there are a lot more number of doctors compared to the AMC clinical slots, which is not the case in AMC 1. Many more slots for AMC 1. The if the timeline for this again, let's say dividing with work without work, I would ideally advise whatever exam you're giving in this wherever you are, whatever exam you're giving, and I also get this question often: should I take a break from my work? Please do not take a break from your work. While you're working, keep preparing for those exams because again, it's a source of income. Your mind is also diverted here, and you can simultaneously you have goals to work. You have to work here and have to also do this exam. It's only when the last 2 3 months before the exam, again, whatever exam, you take a break and then prepare religiously for that exam. But otherwise, if people ask me, and all of you may have this question, should I take a break of 6 months to study for this exam? That's a big no. Speaking out of experience, do not take your time off or do not resign from your already ongoing job just to prepare for an exam, which is 6 months further. Makes sense if it's 1 or 2 months if you need to travel to Australia, but otherwise, no. So yeah, 6 7 months is ideal with work. Again, the same clocking the same number of hours, 4 to 5 hours a day. It's more than enough. There are some resources. Again, if you people need resources beforehand, you guys can get in touch with me. I had fantastic resources with me, which me and a few of my study partners compiled and prepared only from them. Not to mention, we didn't go for coaching. I went for this coaching, Alan Roberts, which is, if few of you are exploring the Australian pathway, you must have heard of this coaching, which is in Melbourne. They are really good. There's a Dr. Raman's coaching. There's the online coaching. And this exam is less about reading and more about practicing. It's less of reading you do. You need to meet more often with your study partner or whoever it is. You meet more often, like how I'm meeting you guys, and you practice those stations on and on and on. Let's say you study pediatrics. Let's say you study jaundice in pediatrics. You need to actually meet your study partner online and do those scenarios face to face. Tell them, okay, you give me a plan, you set up a timer of 8 minutes or 10 minutes, or he or she sets up the timer, and you deliver that medical information which you've read from notes or from wherever within that 8 minutes of time. That's the whole game of AMC. Yes, another very, very high yield or important slide which I mentioned about. This is the entire costs which are going to be incurred right from, let's say, last right from starting registration on those two platforms, Epic and AMC, to traveling and finishing AMC clinical. Just want you to have a hard look. You can go ahead and take screenshots. It's about 12,500 Australian dollars. Again, I want you guys to do the math, convert it into Indian rupees or whatever, and put it in the chat box how much it's going to be, and whether you can have this important discussion with your parents of affording this much for this pathway. Just wait a few seconds before I change the slide. If you guys want to take screenshots or take notes, you can do that. Yes. Just to summarize, you guys can, anyone has any questions, you can always follow up with me either on WhatsApp or LinkedIn. Either of this is fine, preferably not Instagram. But yeah, it can help you in any part of the journey. You're still exploring, you're still confused. A lot of people come to me, and this is not necessarily that I'm pushing or encouraging you towards the Australian pathway. It's just that if you have any confusion, main confusion, what should I do right after FMG or before NEET? Should I explore UK, Australia, America? It's always good to have the information at hand so that you can make an informed decision that, okay, it's not going to be UK, it's going to be Australia, or it's not going to be Australia, it's going to be UK or USA, whatever. Feel free to get in touch. Any of you can get in touch with me if you have any personal queries. I'd be more than happy to guide you in a way which you want. If you want to get in touch with me on a group, I can do that as well. But yes, do seek help if you need it. Do not be confused till the latest point. If you finish with your internship and you're still confused as to which pathway to pursue, all of them look okay, but some of them are, you know, they're like a pinch in your pocket, or some exams just look very daunting. Just I do not want you to be in that position. Be very firm what you want to do and just stick with that plan. That's the whole essence. Thank you so much. Um, I'll take the question answers in a while. Before that, I have another very important slide to share with you. Yes, this one. So I had, this was a Word file which I made, essentially comparing the costs. Again, a very important, I think a very, very important aspect in a medical student, comparing costs of all three popular pathways, the USMLE, Australia pathway, and the UK pathway. This is as of October 2024. So let's talk briefly about USMLE. All of this, I believe, is in American dollars here. So signing up for the ECFMG or the USMLE account, the exams cost. Again, feel free to ask this file. I'm going to be sharing this file, and again, you can take screenshots. Electives, something like electives is an absolute necessity if you are going ahead with the USMLE pathway. It's about 6,000 American dollars. You need malpractice insurance when you are in the US. Let's say you're in the US for 3-4 months for elective. Just multiply that monthly into those number of months. And this is an absolute imperative. You cannot fly or do anything there without this costs. Question banks, let's say $500 for each step you're taking. OET exam, ECFMG pathway application and certification incurs a huge cost when you apply for something what we call as ERAS token and RMP match. The transcript applying to a pace of 100 programs takes about this much. If you seek professional help, it's about this much. So total comes up to this huge sum here. The youth, it's not very less, but it's not humongous as well. That's why take choices as per how much you people have the wherewithal. This is as of AMC, which you already know. All of this is in Australian dollars, which I talked about in my previous slide. Just going swift, just scrolling through them very briskly. It comes out to about this. Let's say 1,000 more give and take here and there. Comes about like this. Observership attachments are not mandatory at this point. However, during 2024, like now it's becoming a lot of I've seen a lot of IMGs. I've been mentoring a lot of IMGs who are also doing observerships, helping them also find a few observerships here and there. There are not a lot of hospitals in Australia as they are in the US, which offer observership or electives. There are a few here and there in between, but it's a lot of cold emailing which we need to do. So yes, but again, not a mandatory requirement to move to Australia. on absorption. This is as of UK, again, a very brief cost. It also comes similar to, and of course, it's subject to discussion, subject to a lot of controversy. If you may have quoted this amount, it could be more, it could be less. This is just a brief rundown of the pathway. I've taken general medicine as a framework because that is where I am, that's the pathway I am in. So the years it will, let's say, require you from India, from your internship in India to the point where you become a consultant. Okay. Taking the medicine pathway in the UK, this is after you've gotten secured a job there. It's 1 year of FY2, which we call as a fellow year two or fellow year two, either 1 or 2 years of fellow years in the UK before you get onto the training. It's 3 years of IMT. UK calls their medicine training as IMT. That's 4 years of high specialty training, such as cardio, neuro, oncology. Some of them are 3 years, but I'm just taking it 5 years. In US, it's after you get a match there, it's 3 years of internal medicine residency, plus 3 years of cardiology fellowship, plus 3 years of, let's say you want to become a cardiologist. They don't call it super specialty or high specialty training. They call it a fellowship there in the US. This plus, let's say you do 1 year of additional fellowship in cardiac echo or electrophysiology. In Australia, it's 1 or 2 years of resident medical officer. It can go up to 3 years as well, depending on which specialty you want to enter. Let's say if you want to enter something like critical care or surgery, those are very, very competitive. Can take about 2, 3 years of like a general IM or an unaccredited registrar in that position, in that department before you step up to the residency pathway. Medicine is called BPT or basic physician training. Then there's plus 3 years of advanced training in, let's say, again, cardiology before you become a specialist. In India, it's either FMG exam or NEET exam, plus 3 years of MD medicine, plus 3 years of DM cardiology. Looks simple, but none of those options are very simple if you decide to take the medicine pathway. I'm just using medicine as a framework, but again, this is subject to change. Yes, that was all. That's how I want to conclude. Just wanted to give very high yield, very brief information. And we always didn't want to talk a lot. I wanted you guys to talk more and you guys to ask more questions before I speak in detail. So yes, that's about it. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was very insightful, and I'm pretty sure everybody learned a lot. Before I open the floor for question and answers for all of the attendees, there are a couple of questions that we have received from the Google form. And if you could just clear that for us, it would be really great so that it would be easier for every one of us to follow through. So the first question is there an observership program like in the UK or AMC for AMC? And should one do electives or observership in Australia before pursuing the AMC pathway?
There are observerships, as I mentioned, but there are not a lot of options like how it's in the US. You mentioned US, I'm just comparing it to US. There are not a lot of options. Observership essentially comes after you've cleared AMC one, so that you get a hands-on of what the Australian system really is and whether you belong there, whether you belong in the system or the country Australia. There are few options. There are websites out there. I can help you out in finding those websites. There are not a lot of hospitals. I think I can count about 20, 25 hospitals which offer observerships. Some of them are paid. I can give you a figure also. Paid as in it could be as high as 10,000 Australian dollars for a 2 month observership, or it could be as low as free. I did an observership in Australia before I got a job, and mine was free. Or if not free, it was $100 a week, Australian dollars a week, and I reached out via cold emailing. So there is, in short, answering your question, there are observership opportunities, not as frequent as in the US, but again, it's not a mandatory prerequisite to land a job.
All right, perfect. So coming on to the next question, what career options and specializations are available in Australia after AMC, and can one work as doctor during specialization to cover living expenses there?
Yeah, great. So, in order to pursue specialization, I'm going to bullet down to there are five IMG friendly specializations in Australia. First, let's say GP, which is general practice. And general practice is not someone which, we look down upon. It's like another specialty in Australia, which is very, very frequent. You go to the GP first before you go to any of the specialists. GP, emergency medicine, internal medicine or general medicine or BPT, as Australia calls it. um, uh, psychiatry, and pediatrics. These are the five very IMG friendly specialities. And yes, answering to the second question, yes, you can cover all your living costs with a partner of yours, let's say, who's not working at the moment. You can cover him or her as well. And with that also, you can save some amount. So all of that can be covered, yes.
Perfect. So, what is the process for licensing and university allotment after passing AMC 1 and 2? And is research necessary to secure a good university, or is good AMC score sufficient?
It was the first question again. I didn't get you, Michael. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. So the first part of the question was, what is the process for licensing and university allotment after passing AMC 1 and 2? And is research necessary to secure a good university, or is the
Right.
good AMC score sufficient?
Right. I'll answer the first question first before I forget exactly what the technicalities of the question was. So, from what I understand, you after you clear AMC 1, AMC 2, there's no such thing as being uh, being attached or affiliated with the university thing that comes from because we read about a lot about US and we know that once we give the exams, we apply for the match and we get accepted to a university or a hospital or a community hospital, whatever. It's not that way in Australia. You've got to clear your exams, let's say part one or part two, both. You're eligible to apply for jobs after either of these exams. You have to apply for jobs and then you get accepted in a hospital. And it's similar, it's very similar to how hiring process is, let's say in India also. You apply via LinkedIn, just giving an example, you apply via LinkedIn, you get a job, you get an interview, you get a job, all those onboarding is done, and they sponsor your visa, etc., and then you. The second question, research is again, I'm comparing to, let's say, the Emily. Research is not very strongly or strongly or favorably looked upon when you're applying for jobs in Australia. With not to mention that it is an important aspect because it really sharpens your CV. Saying from the personal experience, I had a lot of research experience when I was applying in Australia, and I got a job just with AMC 1 in English. I hadn't cleared AMC 2 then. All my job offers were just with AMC 1. And I had a very strong research profile on my CV, and I believe that did help me secure an interview, research experience. So research is important, but you do not really need like a fancy research position in demands in India or UCL in America to get a job in Australia. But it's important to have that research as a medical student because it really widens your horizon, be it whichever pathway you want to go down.
All right, perfect. So, is there any preference given to students like prestige from prestigious universities like AIMS when offering admission to postgraduate courses in Australia?
No, nothing like that. No kind of preferences given. If let's say you're in Ames, which is the highest ranked, what your alumni is very strong, so you can always reach out to your seniors, your professors who may know some people in Australia, and that way you can get more. You can probably be a bit easier to gain observerships in Australia. But in short, no, there's nothing like that.
All right. So, when can one apply for Australian citizenship after starting the AMC pathway? And what is the validity of AMC 1 and 2?
Yeah, great question. Answering your question, answering the second part of the question first, AMC 1 and 2 have no validity. Let's say you've cleared both of them in 2026 and you apply for job in 2050, it's still valid up till now, and it's been ongoing for the last 30 years. APRA or the AMC has never ever set a timeline or never ever set a validity on the AMC exams. How just like how GMC has set for PLAB and ECFMG for USMD, AMC has no validity. First is okay, so answering the first question, very interesting question. The pathway to citizenship is a bit complex and but still easier than a lot other countries. So before citizenship, first you need to secure PR, what we call as a permanent residency, which is either visa subclass 189 or 190 or 191. First, and you can get your PR straight immediately after, you can apply for your PR rather immediately after you secure general registration in Australia, which is 1 or 2 years of working in Australia. Once you apply, there's a wait time for PR, permanent residency, depending on where you are in Australia geographically, which state you are in. There are about 8 states. Once you are PR, then you have 3 more years before you get your Australian passport. It's your choice. You want to apply or not. You want to just have the PR and not have citizenship. But bottom line is, if I shouldn't complex it for you, bottom line is the pathways, general registration, permanent residency, citizenship. PR and citizenship are two different things. PR doesn't guarantee your Australian passport or anything. It's just that it's just a document which you have. Citizenship comes a bit later. Yep.
All right, perfect. So, what is the healthcare system like in Australia compared to other countries like USA, UK, or even India? And what is the job market situation in Australia after clearing AMC one?
The Australian healthcare system is it's very it has superior working environment, obviously superior resources. Just giving a brief, just by comparing an example in terms of getting a CT done is getting a head CT done in India in a trauma patient is a lot harder and it takes a lot of time compared to if I were to get a CT done in Australia if a patient with trauma comes to the emergency department. Generally, developed country, more resources. It's as good as the UK and America. Probably not as flooded as the UK and probably not as very tech driven and very state of the art as America, but it's good. The working conditions are good. The health system is good. They pay you all right. The salary is good and you have fixed hours, just like you have in any developed country in the UK or America. The the job market is it's very dynamic. It's changing every year, but all it depends on your personal circumstance when you are applying. Whether you're applying after AMC one, my answer will be a bit different. Whether you're applying after AMC two, my answer is again going to be a bit different. Whether you're applying with AMC one with let's say 5 years of general practice or specialty experience back in India, my answer will again be different. So the job market is very dynamic. It's changed. It's changed from compared to when I applied. I applied for jobs in 2022. It's becoming more difficult now. It has become more difficult now. So yes, and it's very dynamic. It keeps on changing.
All right, perfect. So I just have the one last question for you from the questions that we have received, and then we can just move forward to the questions in the chat box. So you have spoken about about research before, but building on to the question, what can a competitive CV look like for pursuing AMC and securing opportunities in Australia?
Comparative CV, again, it depends on where you are in your experiences. A comparative CV should look like someone who's done their exams, someone who has good clinical experience back home. Let's say let's say someone who's fresh out of MBBS 1 year experience in either medicine or critical care or emergency medicine department. Someone who has a well-rounded CV, someone who's been a part of uh, someone who's been a part of case presentation, someone who has a bit of research there, someone who's done a few courses here and there which are catered to Australia. Um, Someone who can really extrapolate those experience on your CV in something like in some on onto something which we call as a cover letter. So in the US we call this as a personal statement. In Australia it's cover letter or selection criteria. So it's about all about the experiences you have, but the broader experiences you have in terms of in terms of and in addition to your clinical experience, that's always valued.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Doctor. Now, coming to the questions in the chat box, we have one question. That is, you said that we can give AMC step one and intern year as well. So, is it possible to write AMC one with a professional degree as well? So, basically, is it a postgraduate or an undergraduate exam?
Yeah, no, it's a normal, I mean, it's the exam which tests your final year subjects basically. In addition to a bit of guidelines and resources of what Australia is, that's where the resources and question banks come in play. I'm just talking about AMC one. No matter where you are in your level, undergraduate, postgraduate, being an undergraduate, it's an exam as per your competency. So no, be- not fearing that.
Uh, okay, so this is not a question, but could you just drop in your socials or any handles so people can just connect to you?
Do you want me to drop it on the chat box?
If you could just drop it in the chat box for now, it would be great, and we will have it sent to them in the group also later on. So both of them
Okay.
could work really great. Just
Okay,
let me know once you're done, so I'll ask. We can go to the next question.
so you guys can reach me out on LinkedIn. I've sent my LinkedIn. But Instagram is just me. It's Sharma Divij. But I'd prefer you reach out either on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp. And my WhatsApp is yeah. Put my I put my socials and my details here on the chat box. They're out there, Maitri.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Doctor. So, what is the primary language in Australia? Is it English or do they speak some regional language or one should learn?
Oh no, interesting question. No, no, it's predominant English. It's not Spanish as you're wondering in the US. 30-40% is Spanish. No, it's predominant English in Australia. It's all English. Even just English slangs, English. Yeah.
All right. How do we get observership for free?
For free, great question. Uh, just emailing. A lot of cold emailing would really work. But again, if whoever's asked that question, if you can get in touch with me, I'll help you out with some strategies and help you out numbering or bulleting a few hospitals which offer observerships and someone who you can just reach out to the HR people and just explore. So yeah, it's mostly about you just finding. But yeah, do get in touch with me. I'll help you with how to navigate that aspect.
Uh, what is the duration of post graduation in specialty subject?
The duration.
The duration of post graduation in specialty subject.
Depends. So I talked about medicine. For medicine, it's first 2 years of RMO, or let's say 1 year plus 3 years of BPT or medicine, then plus 3 years of advanced training, like how we call super specialty in let's say India, we call it advanced training there. So post graduation is 3 years, but depending if you are taking emergency medicine, it's 5 years. I think if critical care again, it's 5 years. If psychiatry, it's 3 years. In surgery, it's again 4 plus 3. So it depends on the specialty. But taking medicine as a framework, it's 3 plus 3.
Okay, so the next question is, one of the attendee is a transfer student from Georgia, and she's completing her studies in Georgia right now, Georgia Tbilisi. So will it cause any problem in securing job after AIMS?
No, not at all. Uh, why should the fact that you're studying in Georgia should uh, cost you any cost you any options? It won't. You just have to give the exam. You have to clear the competencies. You need to have those EPIC and AMC portfolio, and you need to have the clinical experience, obviously. And you can go ahead as long as you have the
Perfect.
medical degree
So
and
the
as
next,
long as you have it documented, you've finished internship, should be good.
sorry to take you, doctor. So the next question is narrow or prep ladder enough for AMC? These are popular sources for FMG.
Oh no, no, not at all. Something like marrow, something like cerebellum, bhatia, is that are gonna work for Australia. They don't do foreign exams. They don't do Australia. They don't do PLAB. They don't do MLE. So big, hard, please sounding no. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, could you just briefly let us know about the New Zealand pathway after AMC, since it is one of the most confused pathways.
Okay. So New Zealand is separate from Australia. Answering question in a let's say a twisted form, giving the AMCs will not make you qualify for practicing or applying for a job in New Zealand. New Zealand have their own exam, NZLREX, that's a synonym. They have their part one and part two. Again, but their part one, part two very similar to Australia. But in order to move to New Zealand, let's say if you're working in Australia also and you want to move to New Zealand, you need to give those exams before you eligible to apply as a medical practitioner in New Zealand. And I think the same goes conversely. If you are in New Zealand and you want to switch to Australia, you still need to give AMC pathways. People who can move from Australia to New Zealand are the people who are the local inhabitants, people who've done their medical school in Australia or New Zealand, and they are basically absolved of exams, but not us. New Zealand is a different country, just like US. It has its own competency exams, and you have to go down that pathway. I do not know anyone, and like any of my friends or acquaintances who have done that. I've heard of people who are doing it, so I'm not 100% sure. But I have not seen anyone doing it and be successful with the New Zealand pathway as an IMG.
Okay, perfect. So the next question is, how can we get residency through WBA program?
So the WBA, and I'm sure some the person who's asked this question, you know very well about the WBA. WBA is a program which allows you to bypass the AMC clinical. Going to the residency will still be the same as you would be going, let's say, through, as you would be going after AMC clinical. The WBA program is just a program where you work an additional 6 to 12 months, and that allows you to bypass AMC clinical. Let's say if you failed AMC clinical and you do not want to do the exam because of its expenses, because of the cost, but you've got a job in the hospital which offers WBA, you can go ahead with that. You need to work an additional 12 months or 18 months with that hospital. Once you've done that, your assessments are in place. That just allows you to bypass AMC clinical. They'll be like, okay, don't need to give AMC clinical. You're AMC certified now. You've got general registration. All good. 100% WB has 100% success rate, AMC has 20% success rate. But the residency pathway is still the same. After general registration, you need to navigate whatever specialty you want to do: medicine, critical care, surgery, etc.
Is it possible to write AMC 1 with a provisional degree as well?
I didn't understand what a probational degree is. If you could just clarify that better. Is it provisional or probational?
Provisional.
Yeah, you can write AMC1 with provisional registration. For AMC1, you just need to have that Epic account, and that Epic account needs to be set up. And the Epic account can only be set up once you upload your either your academic school, medical school transcript or your medical degree. Once you're done, you're completely fine.
All right, perfect. So moving on to the next question. So what sources would you recommend as study materials, including the study resources from the scratch?
So for AMC1, if you want, you can get in touch with me. I have really good study resources which helped me sail the exam, and that is all you require. You do not need to subscribe to any fancy course or anything. In addition to that, there are two question banks which I mentioned, which I'll again put this on the chat box, which you can subscribe to. The most frequent one and the more popular one which is subscribed is the Amedex Q Bank. You can take the 6 month plan, which is 480 American dollars, not Australian. Put in the chat box. There's another question bank, but this question bank you can do in the last 1 month or 2 months before your AMC1, which gives very high yield stuff. But food, in short, my 2 cents, the resources, you can get in touch with me. I'll send the resources in addition to the resources which I had. This question bank and this question bank should make you sail through the AMC1 exam for sure.
Okay, thank you, doctor. The other question is the salary is high, but what is the cost of living and savings in Australia?
Oh, very interesting question. Well, let me give you a personal example. I was living by myself. I used to be earning the amount which I quoted. The cost of living is very high. It's very, very high. It's higher compared to how it's in the US as well. Talking with personal experience, speaking with people who are in the US, there's a renting crisis in Australia. The rents are higher compared to what count, let's say my counterparts pay in America, because America has expensive options, but America also has cheap options. Australia, unfortunately, does not have cheap options. In terms of expenses, let's say a carton of milk is 50 rupees in India, and it's 200, it's 300 or 200 bucks. It's 200 bucks in Australia, rupees. Then just converting those dollars into rupees. So you can make that a loaf of bread is 50 rupees in India. It's 300 rupees or 200 rupees in Australia. So you can just get an idea. Renting is expensive. Other things are also expensive. But in addition to the savings, I was by myself, so I was able to save about 1,500 or 12, 1,300 Australian dollars a month comfortably.
So somebody has asked, is there any similar pathway that you know about that can be pursued after doing PG in India, similar to AMC
So
India?
after doing PG in India, a lot of people after doing PG in India also do AMC. It's just that your job profile will be different. But you still have to give AMCs if you're going to the standard pathway. You need to give the AMC exams, but the job position you'll be applying to will not be RMO. It will probably be a registrar position or a PHO, which is a principal house officer position, which is going to pay you higher. You'll be paid 35% higher than how I was paid as an RM. So, but the exams are same. The position will be different. The second pathway is specialist pathway. For a specialist pathway, you need to have done your PG and you need to have at least 5, 6 years of experience post your post graduation in whichever country, let's say in India, and then you can bypass that. It's a bit difficult. It's a lot of paperwork and it's also an expensive endeavor because you need to apply for a comparability, which is another 10, 11,000 Australian dollars.
Perfect. After qualifying AMC 1, would it be possible to get an internship and work in Australia until appearing and qualifying for AMC 2? And is it easy finding a job and if the salary is enough to sustain for one person?
Yeah, let's again answer this question backwards. Not easy. It's not easier finding a job. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's not easier navigating any of the foreign pathways or let's say India pathway. If salary is enough, more than enough for one person, I was able to save also a significant, not a mighty number, but a significant amount living by just myself, paying all those rents. Um, Going back to the first question, you are not eligible to applying for internship and as IMG. Internships are only available for people who have done medical school in Australia. Wherever you are, whichever country you are, you need to do your internship in whichever country you are. Let's say India, you have to finish your internship there. Here, give the exam and only then apply. It's enough. You can apply either after AMC 1, either after AMC 2. But again, my answer will change depending on where you are after AMC 1, how your experience was, how your CV was, and same with where you are after AMC 2, how your experience was, how your CV is.
Okay. So the next question is, could you just suggest any alternative pathway to AMC? That is, after writing MRCP, can we do AMC or do you recommend a direct pathway?
Now, MRCP is completely different. That has no relation with AMC. Alternate pathway is there's no alternate pathway to Australia. You either get the exams. If you want to bypass the exams, then there's the specialist pathway. It's known as a specialist pathway. So three pathways: standard, competent, and specialist. Yeah, the specialist pathway, but the barriers to entry are a bit higher in the specialist pathway. And in order to pursue the specialist pathway, you need 5 years or 4 years of experience post your post graduation. So you finish your post graduation and you're a junior consultant or a lecturer and assistant professor for 5, 6 years. Only then can you make a move comparable to a specialist in Australia without giving the exams.
All right. So adding on to the WBA program questions, what are the chances of percentage of getting WBA program?
Not certain about the percentage. The chances are slim. They are very slim because the competition is extremely high, but you still get through the WBA depending on where you are. It's easier to get on the WBA if you are in the system in Australia and you are moving jobs. But as an IMG, getting a WBA place, it's a bit tricky. You need to have a very stellar CV, a very great cover letter, um, and etc. Just 1 month ago, I was just mentoring a doctor. A doctor from India only, who I helped crack the interview for not the WBA, but for the RMO position in the hospital which offers WBA. Again, he was someone who hadn't done AMC do and he plans to take the WBA pathway no matter how long it takes. He's like, I will wait 2 years, even if they want to make me 2 years before I enter the WBA pathway. That is it. So yeah, I'm saying this example because I heard this story very recently, and I was literally tutoring and coaching that person for the interview, and that person got it. That person got the job there. So it's obviously there that the numbers are slim. There are very less chances because of the increasing competition now. It was less in 2022. It's still high. It's very high now, but it's still possible.
Uh, can a final year student in his final semester give AMC one?
Not in final year. No. The answer is no. You can only give your aim senior during your intern year. You can start preparing for your final year if you want towards the end, whenever you are towards the mid part, whenever you are free from exams. But no, because you need an Epic account which needs your medical school transcript to be uploaded, and you can't upload that till you pass out. Yeah, you can
Correct.
give it anytime.
But
Like
we
you can give it within 3 months of an internship. So you can prepare during final.
Okay, sorry for cutting you again. So the next question is, would we get more favorable programs and cost-effective lifestyle by choosing work in rural areas?
Yes, you do. Yeah. So working in rural areas can get you to, let's say, reach a higher position easier because your work is noticed more. There's a smaller team. You can step up from a resident to a registrar level easily. This is professionally. Personally, other benefits are the chances of getting a permanent residency or the chances of the hospital sponsoring your next visa or upgraded visa is higher because they're looking for someone to stick around in that rural or regional area for a while. And their only way to make the doctor, which is you, to stick around is to offer incentives, either offer higher pay or offer visa support, which a lot of hospitals do. So yes.
Is there any pathway through PLAB or UK MLA?
PLAB pathway, there are two options around it. One is you give PLAB 1, PLAB 2, you get AMC 1, and you apply for jobs. So that allows you to bypass AMC clinical because you're GMC registered with your PLAB 2. And with AMC 1, you're applying for jobs. And it's a new criteria that you need not have AMC 2 if you are GMC registered. Second is you give PLAB 1, PLAB 2, you get GMC registered, you go to the UK, you work for a year, and then you come to Australia via the competent authority pathway. There are these two options. Both of them are a bit tricky. I believe the second one's more difficult because you're moving to the UK, and then after 1 year you're hopping to Australia. You're not giving very 100% to either of the countries. But in short, yeah, these are these two topics.
Would you recommend clearing AMC 1 and 2 both and then applying for a job, or clearing only AMC 1 and then applying for a job?
Both actually depends on how your experience is, depends on how your CV is, but likelihood of you getting shortlisted for an interview is 50, 60, 70% higher after you've cleared AMC clinical as an IMG. But if you, let's say, have observership, etc., 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 it's way more than it's possible with AMC one as well.
What is the work expected from a RMO?
It's the normal job where the first year a resident overlooking, taking rounds, making diagnosis, admitting patients, depending on which department you are in, reporting to your senior, making discharges, handing over stuff, depending on which department you are in, talking about medicine. Emergency medicine is a bit different. You're admitting patients. So but you're more supported compared to India or any other South Asian countries. You're more supported. The work is a bit more relaxed. Not very angry bosses driving, just breathing down your neck and giving a lot of workload. Yeah.
So this is one of the personal questions. So how is
Yeah.
your interview after AMC 1?
How was my sorry?
How was your interview after AMC 1?
Oh, yeah. So my interviews, I got shortlisted for 6 interviews after this is a year after AMC one. Um, my experience with interviews were good. I was unsuccessful with two, but successful with 4 interviews. So I got 4 job offers after AMC one in English, and I had 1 year of experience in India in Bombay. The experience, because you specifically asked about interview, the interview experience was good, very professional. They have a set pattern, and I coach people about the interviews as sessions as well, how to prepare for them, what likelihood of what kind of questions are asked, and how to present them in the best way possible. It's a 20-minute meeting, 20-minute stint. They ask you 4 5 questions, and that's basically it. Then they make a decision on whether they want to hire you or not.
Okay, so I think we just have one last question and we can just wrap this session. Uh,
Yeah,
Guys, you can just reach out to Dr. later. We have had a great series of questions, and I'm sure everybody is pretty much clear and they have a good understanding of things. So, just to ask one question, it is
yeah.
how again just one question, one person question, and how did you start your journey, and what is in which are you, which strata or which professional, which specialization, I'm so sorry, which strata or specialization are you currently working in, and if you could just say is the psychiatry branch competitive or not?
It's like I'm working in medicine. That's my strata. I'm be starting medicine training next in February. My experience I started back in final year was just because I did the whole thing by myself, read about AMC by myself. There was no one to guide or support me. Read about APRA, AMC, exams, resources, prepared them by myself, did everything by myself. Started in final year when I was just, accumulating all the information. During internship, I gave my AMC one. Soon after internship, I got a job. Then I got a job, worked for a year. Then went to Australia for an observership, did a couple of other courses as well, such as ALS, BLS. And that is when I was actively applying for jobs while I was working in Australia, or while I was working in India, beg your pardon. In Australia, then when I was observing, I got these offers which I mentioned before, and I got a job. I didn't clear my AMC clinical. I have failed my AMC clinical twice actually. I've cleared it on the third attempt. I'm very open and candid about it, and I teach people, I teach doctors how not to make the same mistakes as I did. But I was working in Australia already, so I was able to afford that high cost of the AMC clinical. So that was essentially my journey. Was obviously a lot rewarding and a lot of struggles as well. Psychiatry branch, coming on to the last part of your question, psychiatry branch is not competitive, so it's one of the very IMG friendly branches, depending on where you are in Australia. So state-wise, let's say you're in New South Wales, their psychiatry is competitive. But if you move to some other places, it's a very chill branch and very IMG friendly. People take you on training just like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Doctor. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much, Dr. Divij, for sharing your expertise and providing us with such an insightful guidance, taking on to like a dozen questions of us and making sure that we understand it well. We appreciate your patience and your insights. I believe that your guidance has definitely been helpful to all of our attendees, including me. I'm also thinking of it. I might think of it, and that's great. And thank you so much for that. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our project head, that is Tina Shah, as well as our PR officer, that is Karthik Dua, and our entire PRASHA team for their efforts in organizing this session. Finally, a big thank you to all of the attendees today for the webinar. Your enthusiasm and engagement, your questions, everything fuels our mission to create events like this. If you missed any part of this session or you want to revisit it, it will the recording will be soon available to you, or it will be just uploaded on the YouTube channel, so you can just catch onto that. So stay tuned on for the updates on next session in navigating residency webinar series. And don't forget to connect with us on our social media for such opportunities. And also to Dr. Divish on his LinkedIn. He will definitely help you through, and he has a lot to share to you as well. Have a great day, guys, and thank you all once again.
Yeah, Maitri, just a second. If I may, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I was just sifting through the chat box, and I'm so sorry, guys, if I wasn't able to answer a few questions. I understand a lot. A few of you asked what questions were asked when the interview. Some of them asked me to make a WhatsApp group and share a link with resources and etc. Someone asked me about the resources. Someone asked me tools on how to build a CV. Great. So, guys, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp or LinkedIn. I'll really help you out. So, I do hold mentorship sessions based on whichever part you need help with in the either CV building as a student, AMC one resources for AMC one, AMC two, and just getting more information on the student pathway. I will talk to you. They are paid sessions, but I'll budget out for you. Don't worry. Again, because of these questions, and I'm again dropping my socials on the chat box because it was again missed out. So if you have those questions, if you want me to form a WhatsApp group, I'm more than happy to do that. And you can ask freely, openly, and express your personal circumstances well on what clarity you want on whichever pathway. I've dropped my question again on the chat box, guys. And look, again, bottom line is speaking with me or having this thing. I'm not here to convince you or persuade you to go towards Australian journey. A lot of you here are just, need more information and are confused. I'm here to clear that down, whether Australia is right for you or not. Even after discussion with me, you may decide maybe USMD or UK is the best pathway, and that's excellent. It'll be a success for me if you guys decide that I'm definitive on this, but not on this. And that's what I'm here for. Not just here to convince, okay, go the Australian route, take the resource and start studying. It all depends on what you want, what costs are, whatever you can afford, whatever pathway you want to take down, be it be it India also. I'm very bullish and very positive on the Indian pathway, and I don't want any one of you to look down upon it because uh, look, India is fantastic. It has its wounds and banes, but I think the program in India is very good. If you, let's say, bypass the first year of whichever specialty residency you want to do, I think the hands-on and the patient exposure you get in India is second to none. And I'm saying that from personal experience. I'm saying that from speaking with people in the UK, speaking with people in America, and obviously speaking with people in India as well. So yeah, here to guide you about I also guide about the UK pathway because I've done the MRCP. I can talk a bit about the USMD because it do have certain tricks and tips to that. So yeah, feel free to just get in touch and get those doubts clear. It's not necessarily Australia. I just want to let you know that I'm here to help you out clear the confusion as a medical student or as an intern. Thank you guys. Thanks, Maitri. Thank you for giving me the stage to conclude with the last few minutes. Thank you all of you. Thanks the team.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Take care, guys.